XRP Hoberg here again. So looking at the index right now, there are three really important columns on the Coinsgit.com index. We've got the micro signal, we've got the macro signal, and we have the BMS column. So in a bear market, you will see that the BMS is resistance. For example, Bitcoin, if we take a look on the weekly, came up, snagged it just there, got rejected, put a little bit of a bull trap, and then boom, rolled. So this three-color line is really important. You can see the significant here. Once we roll back to a lower high situation, we've been dropping ever since. And for Bitcoin, what we're doing, unfortunately, it's creating lower highs. So there is something that's building here that no one's looking at. It's called a bullish divergence on the macro. The weekly time frame especially, we are seeing lower lows in the index where you're closing below this pivot point. And on the RSI, we are creating higher lows. The last time we saw this, if we go back in time, was here. We created these lows just there where we got really, really oversold. And then what we did, we created lower lows in the index, but higher lows in the RSI. And at that point, we began to get back above the fit killer line, which is your 2-0-week QMA. So from this point, Bitcoin, even if it has another roll and starts to come back up, just closing above the 2-0-week QMA could increase the probability of the bottoms in, because we are seeing that bullish divergence build. So, and these are like rocking all shit. Okay. But the only concern I have at the moment is the fact that, we could see another little flash into this range just there, into these lows, and then still create this Boleslav divergence. It would look a little bit like that. So keep an eye on this pivot point. So at the moment, that pivot point is around about 27.14. If we do see another little low put into the charts, which is something I'm anticipating, it could well indeed be the bottom for Bitcoin. Okay, something like this. It's coming down the stairs at this point. What you're doing, and I've relayed this to you before for Bitcoin, you're creating a macro falling wedge here where we've got all this support. And typically what we do see is 3 points of support, and we break on a third point resistance in a falling wedge. So this will be one level of support, two level of support, final third level of support. This is your second point of resistance. First point of resistance, and we do typically break on the third point of resistance. You can clearly see how tight this is getting towards this range before we do, potentially break out. And then this starts to drop once more. This drops as well, creates that bullish divergence on the MACD. Creates this bullish divergence on the weekly RSI, then it's out of there. But all we're looking for is the break of this resistance on the third point of contact, your thick yellow line closing above, and I think we could be settled for a scenario like this. So the bottom could be very, very close here for Bitcoin. And again, there's no bias. I'll keep dates per second, but this is pattern trading. And what we've got from this top, if you take a look, as we started to come up in late 24, we did start to print a bearish divergence where this trend was running out of steam. So, coming down the stairs, creating a bullish divergence is the same as this trend running out of steam. This trend will eventually run out of steam. Obviously, this never feels like it's going to run out of steam. And this never feels like it's going to run out of steam, but you get the clues in the divergences, especially on the macro time frame. So that's Bitcoin. But what's XRP doing? So I think we're really, really tight here. Again, and there's no bias. There's no crystal ball. I can't see into the future. This is a potential reversal pattern called a falling wedge. It's a macro falling wedge. Some kind of ABC. We did form one just there as well, which we traded way back when. I'll show you for those people that are new to the channel. This equally was an ABC. And as we come down, we got really, really tight, and we broke out the third point resistance. We had 3 points of support as well. 1, 2, 3. This is where we create this bullish divergence. And then we broke bull. The big clue was to close above the thick yellow line, which obviously is your BMS round, about 73,154. So for example, if Bitcoin has another rollover and closes above the BMS, in theory, it's all systems go. It's the big, the big go signal that we're looking for Bitcoin, for that big impulsive move to the upside. But it could potentially come up and enter that price discovery once more. So let's take a look at the XRP chart on other charts in this index right now to see what's occurring. Okay, so looking on the index right now, we are seeing, on the BMS, we are only seeing a few coins that are actually in an uptrend and showing us that bullish momentum. For example, Tron, we've got Type, which we looked at in a recent video. We've got ZEC, ZEC. We have Bullish minus 10% XMR. We've got Lab, which is absolutely taking off into space. Look at that, right into the sale zone. This could offer a massive short for ourselves because the index is telling us that, okay, if we take a look at Lab, this is absolutely rocketed from nothing. It's took off into space, and right now you will see multiple bearish divergence numbers, printing the charts. So just like you never think this trend's never going to end. I've shown you on Bitcoin, once you start printing these big, bearish divergences, you are really taking on risk for a pullback. So this could offer an amazing short because we're seeing really overextension on the MACD. And right now we're seeing that massive overextension on the daily time frame on the index, where we're getting really overextended and we're creating a whopping bearish divergence, okay, for Labs. And right now, look at that. You really slam bang into that sale zone and you're 167% above the BMS. So like I said to you, that BMS is like a magnet. It attracts the price. So that could offer a whopping short in time. I'll try and get that into the CoinsKid Discord for the poor CoinsKid crew. But this one has come from nowhere, Lab. So there's not many coins that are showing bullish momentum. The rest are showing bearish momentum. You're in a bear market. You're coming down minus 16.2% for Bitcoin, minus 44% for Ethereum, minus 12% for BNB, and minus 45% for XRP. So I don't think this thing will go down forever. If we take a look at XRP, look at that. Last time you back tested that was almost 7 months ago. And when is that? July? January, sorry. So we're approaching July. So that's almost 7 months. About back tests, and that's not quite a back test, just there. We didn't quite tag it, did we? No, we didn't quite tag it just there. So, I think if we have another little drop, we're getting overextended, and I think we'll see a pump. It really is that simple. So, what we're doing right now is you see this leg just there that came back up like that. It back tested this support as resistance and dropped. You see this move that we're getting right now. This is a free wave move that's back testing this support as resistance, and it's looking at another little drop, but I think this is running our steam. I think we're going to see a move here because we're printing bullish divergence down here as well on the MACD. So another little drop. I think we could see a move that comes back up into at least this range here, around about the 1.800 level, which obviously is your BMS as well. So this is what I'm looking at. I think we're going to have a little bounce here. If we see another little flash crash, I'm going to buy as much as I can. I think we've got to move to the upside for XRP, and I'll look at that in more detail later. But what we've got right now, Solana. So looking at Solana on the weekly, this thing's retracing a beautiful 5-way move that we printed from this bear market bottom here in late 2022. Okay, and this was a sweet spot for us. So this is an all-time high, and you clearly see that all we've done for Solana is ramp up in 5 waves. 1, sideways. 2, breakout. 3, sideways. 4, final 5th. And again, this is the confluence of the fact that I do think a bear markets began just there. a big macro correction. So in theory, from this bear market bottom, I think we've seen an impulsive wave one into the all-time high for Solana. And at that point, just like XRP, we've got an ABC that's kicking into the charts. However, the B wave here for Solana, which is a free wave move, making a lower high, for XRP, it made a higher high in the summer. So, basically Bitcoin and XRP put in that bull trap, but Solana is selling as a true for the market. So you've got an A into a free wave B, and right now you're in a nasty C wave. We could look at this as some kind of 1 pullback, 2 breakdown, 3 pullback, 4 final fifth. So Solana may actually be in the bottoming process, and people expecting it to do something like this with a bit stand into this zone and this on and so on and so forth. Even into this zone could be left waiting, basically empty-handed. So we're looking for the impulsive moves from the downside to the upside for Solana at that point. Just like this impulsive move into this kind of breakdown, you make that high-low structure. You're beginning to reverse the trend. We don't quite see that at the moment, unfortunately, for Solana. But I do think it will hold one of the biggest clues going forward that the trend has changed. Because currently from this high, just there, we're making lower highs and lower lows, unfortunately. So the trend is your friend until the end. But again, this is looking like some kind of falling wedge. From the top, we may have some kind of support just there that's doing something like that. And something like this, where we're getting this tightening range for Solana, where we're dropping like this. So again, equally, we're getting really, really tight in an ABC. We're doing something like this, where again, this comes up and drops into this apex. We could see a nice reaction where we begin to break back up and close above the thick yellow line, reversing the trend. Like what we did there, where you break above into a previous God candle back test, you make a high low into support, and then you break ball. So this wave, this is a third wave, 1, 2, 3. So you got all this in front of you. Once we identify the reversal of the trend, and people, they get really impatient and things like that. But one thing we're really good at on this channel is identifying the trend. At the moment, the trend is your friend until the end. We're in a downtrend. It really is that simple. But in time, this thing will enter another uptrend. It never feels like it will do, but I think it will. And what we're doing on the macro, we've got a high-low situation currently for Solana. So Solana is seeing a 5-way move up. And right now you've got an ABC retracement that's coming back down. It's getting really tight in a potential macro ABC zigzag, which is called a falling wedge, basically, for Solana. So we've got this neckline, if, again, I'm completely wrong, and this drops and it loses its neckline, then you're invalidating, your support of a falling wedge. But at the moment, it looks like this is the play, because if we take a look, we've got some kind of 1 into a pullback. 2, the third wave lost its support. You rallied on wave 4, and right now you're in a final fifth, which is coming down, which could consist of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down into this support, into this apex, where you get really, really tight, and then you break bull. So keep an eye on Solana. It holds all the clues going forward, because currently what we're doing from the high just there in December of 2024 and January 2025, we are retracing. So this is the truth of the market. This is why I'm showing this chart. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to put some bids in this support. Just there, the 0.5 fib and round about 0.4839. That could well qualify as the bottom, because there is something called a dead cat bounds. Basically, when things drop like this, they retrace into the 0.5 fib and natural retracement level. Before continuing, it's called a dead cat bounce. But obviously, this is an inverse chart. And if we were to flip it, that's what it looks like. So possibly bear market low, impulsive 5 wave, wave 1, ABC macro wave 2. And this next wave is a discovery wave, a wave 3, just like I'm showing you for XRP as well on the macro. So we just got to be patient there because Solana, I think, will hold all the clues just like it did just there. Your impulse, your correction is a high-low structure. We're looking for that. If we can start to see something like that in this particular chart for Solana, I think we've got a good time ahead of us for crypto, although obviously it never feels like it. So let's dive into the XRP chart so we can see. Okay, so looking at XRP on the index, we are currently trading around $1.12. On the micro, we are in the buy warning zone. On the macro, we are in the buy warning zone. And on the BMS, we are bearish, 45%. Roughly $1.62. And we've gone roughly 7 months, almost 7 months, without backtesting that BMS. Like I said to you, the longer you do that, the increased probability you eventually see that turnaround. So the reason I'm looking at potential rally, if we do start to see another little flash crash, the reason I'm looking at potential rally into this support just there is the same reason why we're seeing what we're seeing right now. Okay. And we've seen this before, and I've already, relayed this to you. So on the weekly, if you drop that support in just there, that's called a descending triangle. And what we did, if you take a look, we rallied. Once we dropped down, we rallied into this support as resistance in a free wave move. If I switch out to the daily, I can show you even better from this support down here, this big flash crash. It was a free wave move into the resistance. So your descending triangle capitulated, free wave move, and then you dropped again. Now this descending triangle here, this is something I had on the radar way back when. I've been looking at this descending triangle, lower highs into support. And one of the primary reasons I was looking at that is because this was a free wave move. Just like this was a free wave move. So this was the biggest clue. And this is why I did remain bearish on XRP. A lot of people saying you're going to take off here. But like I said to you, my primary is a descending triangle. We're making a series of lower lows, lower highs, and support. Typically, we break down on a third point of support with exactly that. And what are we doing from this low? Another free wave move into the resistance where, again, we're seeing signs of distribution, just like what we got there. So we've got to escape that. Now, if you take a look, one thing we've not done, you see this got kind of back tested just there. We've not basically back tested that as resistance. So if we drop this level of support in, that's roughly around about $1.77. And this support just there, support just there, and support just there. We flush fruit and we've never back tested it. But I think there's a possibility here we're running out of steam in this trend. So if we see another little flash crash, I think we could see a run, a nice little trade for ourselves. So, where am I bidding? Where am I bidding for XLP? So I've already relayed to you. I do think the macro support could potentially come down to the golden ratio and nestle down there. But I think we could see some kind of bull trap here where basically this comes up in a freeway move, leave a 1 into a 2 into a 3, 4, 5. So this would complete a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup into roughly $1. Then we see a massive rally into this support before the final capitulation. Potentially towards the end of the year here for XRP down to roughly 90 cents. So I think this move to the downside could be front run, basically around about $1. And the reason I'm looking at that is because if we take a look, and again, I could be completely wrong, but what we've got is a descending triangle where we've got the back test and distribution. just like we've got the descending triangle and the backtest and distribution in a freeway move. So if you take a look, really simple, off this pivot low, the same as this pivot low, free wave move, non-impulsive move, free wave move, non-impulsive move. You began to drop, and then you've come down the stairs like this, and you've got your big sell-off, your potential selling climax. So I think that all of this right now is accumulation for XRP to eventually turn around and break bull and take out the highs in a massive discovery wave. And I've looked at this with you before. So this accumulation range is going to get boring. It's going to drag its feet. It's going to shake people out. People are going to give up and things like that. But in my opinion, that is maximum opportunity going forward for XRP. So I think we're just in this sort of accumulation zone. It's boring, you know, just like this. If you take a look, this is a distribution zone. So you come up, you have a freeway, move down a freeway, move back up. Okay, it's all distribution, just there. People are taking profit. You know, it's the same thing. It's just in reverse. I hope you understand that. So going forward, I think it will get a little bit boring, a little bit patchy. People will switch off, get bored, and things like that. And I keep this, you know, updated best I can. But I think this trend is running out of steam here for XRP. And it could well be that the next low is a true bottom. So this is why I'm going to buy it. So where do I think XRP could see its bounce, where eventually you find support and then eventually you make your way into this Godkend or bat test? I think it could come around about $1 a psychological level, because if I'm looking at this 1, 2, 3, 4, this is your final fifth wave to the downside. So you're looking at 1.272 at least. Okay, so we're nestling on the 1 fib. So this is why I do think we could see a bounce at roughly $1 for XRP. So I'm going to put some bids at $1, and I'm going to look at a nice little bounce into roughly $1.76. Now, this could be a nice little trade for us. So from there to there, we could be looking at appreciation around about 76% for XRP. So that's currently my primary outlook. I think this trend's running out of steam. I don't think this is going to go on forever. Whether or not this is part of a big ABC that comes back up and flushes eventually into the end of the year, possibly, or whether or not this is a low, I don't know. But I'm going to bid here. I'm going to bid at $1 for XRP and a 1.272, where potentially we've got some kind of $1, $2, $3, $4 final fifth wave down, and then we see a nice V shape into that 176. So I think we could have a nice little trade in front of us. So this is a very, very similar trade that I played way back here. For anyone that remembers, it's been with the channel. I played a very similar trade down here that rallied into this Godkend or back test for XRP. Basically, I think it was around about September, wasn't it? So we could be looking at something very similar, some kind of accumulation range that plays out exactly like this. And I'll keep you updated as best I can. But what I'm looking for, you see this movie, 1, 2, flush, 3, 4, 5. That was an all-in moment for me. And if I start to see that again, you know, I'm going to be screaming from the top of my lungs, I'm all in here, guys, because it's exactly what I was screaming just there for XRP as well, if anyone paying attention. 1, 2, flush, 3, 4, 5, all in there as well. And that led to that massive move to the upside. So keep dates best I can. But currently, I do think that, you know, this trend's running out steam, and I think we'll see a nice little bounce. So I think around about $1, you could have some success here for XRP, where we could see a nice little bounce into the 176 into, you know, September, October time, when people think, you know, the bottom's coming in for Bitcoin. A key update for second. Take care, everyone. Back to a new update in XRP. Bye.